I'm Jim Handy. I'm an industry analyst covering semiconductor markets and mostly memory markets, which are very important to two very large Korean companies, Samsung and SK Hynix. But those technology stalls that I promised to talk to you about, there are two of them on this slide. There's one in the 1990s, which was the most profitable era in the history of the semiconductor market. There was a difficulty that DRAM needed to change from a 4-bit wide organization to a 16-bit wide organization. The DRAM makers thought this would be very simple, but it ended up being difficult, and it took an extra year and a half for them to do this, and that caused a shortage to drag on. The shortage had already started earlier, and then it continued. In 2005, we had also a similar technology stall, and that was because 90 nanometer processes were very hard for DRAM manufacturers to learn how to make. Today, we're in a similar kind of a stall with NAND flash. NAND flash is moving to a 3D design, and that 3D design has caused a 3-year delay in the introduction of the next generation of flash. That has caused a shortage in NAND flash that is very important to what our outlook is like for the rest of the forecast. What will happen is once 3D NAND is mastered, we will have an oversupply. And so this is what's going to cause the next downturn. I have in the background of this slide a bunch of dominoes that have fallen because I'm expecting for the market to turn out the same way as falling dominoes does, that when NAND falls, then it will cause other markets to fall. When the NAND flash goes into an oversupply, then prices will go down to the cost of 3D NAND. But companies are still making both the older planar or 2D NAND and they're making 3D NAND. And so they will, as prices go down to the cost of 3D NAND, planar NAND will now cost more than it can sell for. And so these manufacturers will close their planar NAND facilities or they will convert them to DRAM. When that happens, that will cause the DRAM shortage, which was driven by capital spending, to become a DRAM oversupply. And so then, in turn, certain DRAM manufacturing plants will no longer be able to make parts for the same thing as what the market price is, and so they will close, or they will be converted to something else. I say foundry here, but it could be SRAM or NOR flash too. And so we'll have a follow of an oversupply of those. Our prediction is that in 2018, the middle of the year, NAND will be oversupplied. Toward the end of the year, DRAM will be oversupplied. And then in 2019, then we'll have the other subsequent oversupplies. And so this will make 2018 what we call a bittersweet year. This chart shows total semiconductor revenues per quarter by, and the black line is historical, and the red line is our forecast. And so you can see that 2018 starts out going up for the first 2 quarters, but then revenues go down at the end of the year. And we're expecting to go down further in 2019. The bittersweet, in case that's a strange expression for you, it means that there are good times and there are bad times in this year. The beginning of the year will be good. The end of the year, we expect to see a collapse. And so our outlook for 2018 is we're expecting to see a really good first half of the year, and then we'll see a collapse. This market still has cycles. We expect the semiconductor market always to have cycles. And even though you might hear from company presidents that the cycle has ended, I've been in this business for 40 years, and I've heard that several times before. And it never is true. These cycles will always continue. A strong start to the year, though, will allow us to have 10% or more growth in the semiconductor market. We're expecting DRAM to have 12% growth over 2017, but that's a very small growth compared to 2017's 80% growth. We're expecting NAND flash to have 9% growth, which is down from the 50% growth that it had in 2017. And we will see this downturn start in the summer of this year. 2019, as I said before, will be a negative year for the semiconductor market. There are longer term issues. Some of you might have noticed that I really haven't spoken about China. And the Chinese government and an organization that they're directing, Xinhua Unigroup, and a company that they're investing in that's called YMTC. They want to become a major portion of the NAND flash market. This is a very important market for Samsung and SK Hynix. They're expecting to get into volume production in 2020. So this is after the oversupply starts. It will cause that oversupply, that downturn, to last longer than it would have normally. Typically, that circle that I showed in the first slide is 2 years of profits, 2 years of losses. This will probably end up turning into 3 years or more of losses because of that. We're doing a report at Objective Analysis on the China market to examine this more fully. We're expecting to see more industry consolidation, especially in the DRAM market, because there's certain economic factors that make it very difficult for DRAM manufacturers to be able to afford to stay in the market. And so now there are only 3 DRAM manufacturers: Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron Technology. In a few years, there will be only 2. We're not saying which one will leave the market, but we do believe one of them will. We expect new demand drivers to emerge, and I think that Mr. H.D. Cho was very good at giving some detail about the sessions that we'll talk about these. Autonomous vehicles, Internet of Things is another one, artificial intelligence. But usually these demand factors take a long time to really fall into place and to make a big difference to the market. So these are things that are more in the far future. So with that, I'd like to thank you for the talk. And I think that we're taking questions after the end of all of these talks, aren't we?